last few years, a more sceptical mindset is emerging. In the global recession, upscale consumers suffered wealth losses just like everyone else, obviously to a very different degree depending on where you were on Maslow. But there is more to this, I think, than economics. From the Chinese government's anti-extravagance campaign to the American public's revulsion at the antics of the Wolf of Wall Street, there seems to be in many parts of the world a cultural rejection of old luxury. The Chinese engine of growth is spluttering. It grew 19% a couple of years ago, only 4% last year. Shares of Mulberry plunged last month because of Korea, in part South Korea, where the luxury market only grew 1%. The conglomerate Kering posted its weakest quarterly sales growth in a few years amid softness in Europe as well as China. All is clearly not happy in the garden of luxury, and some people are even going as far as to ask, is luxury dead? Well, my view is that the concept of luxury is too alluring to be banished altogether. It fulfills a fundamental human need, or desire, if you like. It may not be as healthy as it was, but I don't think it's dead. I think, in fact, it's just sitting up and asking for another cup of sweet tea. But it's important to understand that the sector is not booming as much as before, not just because consumers can't afford to dip into it as much as they used to, but also because attitudes have shifted dramatically, and not every company has yet adjusted to this. Corporate misdeeds and perceived excess have cast the new rich as the new villains, and their lifestyles are no longer a confessable aspirational fantasy. Consumers still want more, but conspicuous consumption's out of fashion. The logo-driven excess of the past decade or so being looked on with distaste. People still want fun, of course, and to mark their progress, but many of them also want more meaning, more connection, and more substance. And so, luxury is showing us a gentler, a more discreet face. Quality's become a watchword again. Authenticity's in demand. Uniqueness of experience is key. And in this way, I think that a rehabilitation process has begun. Brands who understand this are still making great progress. Kering's smaller labels like Bottega and Saint Laurent both are performing really well, for example, in the last quarter. The luxury market is, in fact, still resilient. It's still on track to grow 6% last year, reaching well over $350 billion in value. Wealthy individuals in emerging markets will keep spending at home as well as abroad, with huge untapped potential. And think about it, Africa only lags Asia in terms of the number of new millionaires created each year. But if a certain type of luxury is alive and well, what's behind the change? I think there are three key drivers. I'm going to look at these more closely and see how they influence our approach. And the first one is a level of unprecedented geographic and demographic change. I think we can see a new Silk Road emerging for luxury goods, a road that now circles the globe. Luxury no longer only moves along the old, perhaps insulting dimensions of west to east. Consumer movement and behaviour is dynamic. There are about 130 million luxury consumers in emerging markets. More than 10 million new people are entering the market every year. And many occasional consumers are becoming more immersed in luxury brands. For reasons that include authenticity hunting as well as pleasure seeking, more and more Chinese people, for example, are buying their goods and experiences abroad. This new dynamic, which I suppose you could call the democratization of luxury, creates a new adoption system. Most luxury companies make most of their money out of their lower price tiers, people who can afford to dip into the brands occasionally, perhaps a pair of Tiffany earrings, Louis Vuitton purse. Radha Chadha and Paul Husband, in their book The Cult of the Luxury Brand, call these people the luxury nibblers. Our 1990 model summarizes how we reach people. We talk first to the most influential 1% of consumers, connoisseurs, high net worth individuals, global influencers, exclusive offers, exclusive experiences and content. But we do so in a way that news of this, or the content itself, can be amplified at scale. It's amplified by the 9%, media, bloggers, regional influencers, and so it's overheard by the 90%, the aspirers or nibblers who purchase when they can. Third driver of change, I think, is our cultural context. Douglas Holt, the author of Cultural Branding, summed it up when he said, strategy must move beyond the abstract product benefit description to an understanding of how a brand fits into what's taking place in culture and society. Our cultural context is continually changing. I think the most resonant brands evolve with it, not just surfing its wave, but adding new meaning and possibility. A brand with viral buzz or a slogan doesn't necessarily have cultural traction. I think cultural traction applies to brands that have myths or stories which affect how people think about themselves and the worlds they're part of, in the way that they use them to express their identity, enable community belonging, make life more rewarding. Let me summarize my story. Once upon a time, luxury was a static icon. It traveled from west to east. It celebrated the world of a proprietor. And now I see it as a dynamic, evolving icon, which can be from anywhere, everywhere, and is a celebration of all of our heritage. Whereas once it was a sign that you'd already made it, a way to separate mass from class, a way of identifying yourself as part of an exclusive club, now it can be a sign that you're still on your way, a sign of progress but not necessarily completion, and a way of curating and enhancing your own personal brand. It used to be a fantasy a brand asked you or even demanded that you buy into, a pre-packaged lifestyle that you were supposed to adopt. But now, it can be about people bringing their own hopes and dreams to life, working within and enhancing their own lifestyles. And if it used to be a boutique that you had to queue up outside or get a personal invitation for, now it can be something that more people, wherever they are, can buy, view, experience, download, even all of the above. And it all happens through telling stories. Compelling stories, vivid stories, exciting ones. But also stories that at their heart are grounded, thoughtful, and true. Stories have always been how humans have interpreted life. And today, in our still evolving world, they're also a big part of how humans celebrate life. Which is why, a bit like the way that Johnny Walker Blue Label's recent film in China brought Bruce Lee back to life to recast his messages for a new generation, I suggest that luxury marketing is by no means dead. And that, done right, it can even make a valuable contribution to life in general.